Welcome everyone in War Eagle. My name is Moira Alsobrook and I serve as an Auburn Clubs coordinator with Auburn Advancement, and for the next 30 minutes or so, your host of the 1856 Speaker Series. During our show, we would love to hear from you. So ask questions and interact by leaving comments and questions on the Facebook page. We will do our best to answer and acknowledge them in the half hour we have together. Today, we have the honor of featuring our very own Michelle McKenna. To help us learn more about Michelle, let's take a look at this quick introductory video.
Michelle McKenna grew up in Enterprise, Alabama, graduated from Auburn University, and began her career as a CPA, auditor, and controller. But when she joined Disney in a strategic planning role, she fell in love with technology, data, analytics, and their implications on the guest experience, eventually becoming Vice President of Information Technology. In this role, she led the Destination Disney project and was part of the launch of Disney Cruise Line, Disney's Wide World of Sports, and new hotels and resorts. Michelle went on to become CIO for Universal Orlando Resort, where she was on the opening team for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Collaborating with J.K. Rowling, she implemented the technology required to bring the best-selling children's books to life in a theme park. Encouraged by Coach Pat Dye from her Auburn years to pursue a career in football, in 2012, Michelle jumped at the opportunity to join the NFL as Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer. Michelle is responsible for strategy, shared service delivery, and management of the league's technology activities, and leads initiatives such as Next Gen Stats, a player and play tracking technology following players through sensor devices, gathering thousands of data points and creating new stats and insights for players, coaches, and fans. But when the U.S. shut down in mid-March, Michelle found herself leading the technology strategy to execute the first ever virtual NFL draft. As McKenna put it, we recognized that not only were we putting on a draft, but we had a really amazing opportunity to give America a little bit of a break from what has been a very bleak, challenging, and sad time for us. Currently, Michelle and her team are planning for the kickoff of what will certainly be a unique NFL season. Michelle is a board member of several media and technology companies, and a frequent speaker and presenter at conferences on technology and digital transformation. Michelle's leadership philosophy is to know your value, claim your spot, and be bold.
Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. War Eagle, everyone.
If it's okay with you, we'll jump into a few topics and then we'll let the audience guide the rest of our conversation today. Great. Michelle, you have such an incredible story that keeps getting enhanced and elevated. Talk to us a little bit about the change you've experienced in your career and some of the unexpected journeys that have led you to where you are now.
Yeah, well, I often explain that life has a way of looking like the way you planned it, and the way you end up telling your story at the end. But in reality, in the middle, and the real truthful official story doesn't necessarily line up to what your real life was like. And so this little graph here is a good one to point out, because certainly it was that way for my life. I had my plan, and then I have my official story that you see on my resume. So this is I'll give you my official story, and then we'll talk about a lot of the twists and turns. So when I tell my official story, this is it. Looks very linear. I was born and raised in Alabama in a Friday Night Lights town. I went to Auburn. I loved sports, and I experienced an amazing career that led me across some of America's largest brands to the pinnacle of sports as the first C-level female executive in the National Football League. But this is just that. It's the official timeline, and it leaves out a lot of details. So, life simply isn't linear. I had big plans from an early age, but I definitely couldn't have predicted where life would have led me. I mean, from Auburn to being a CPA at what is now PwC and then was Coopers and Lybrand, then to MetLife and Disney, Universal, an energy company, Constellation, and ultimately the NFL. I mean, each of these jobs and opportunities led me down a path. And some of them were very different than I planned. But the one thing they all had in common was that they were ever changing. And so, embracing the change and ambiguity and managing fear of the unknown and breaking that down each time has sort of been my life trajectory.
That's awesome. And it makes me want to draw out my linear line versus my windy road. So thank you for sharing that visual with the audience. Talk to us a little bit. How have you embraced ambiguity?
Yeah, I mean, look, all of us have had times of uncertainty. And I think maybe in the last couple of years, we've lived in times of just deepest uncertainty. For me personally, having a deep faith has been important to me. Knowing that in the end, I'll be okay has helped. And I really do believe, that God has a plan for me, and I have faith in that. And so I do, feel a deep faith, and that has helped me. And of course, the loving support of family and so many mentors and advocates who've encouraged me every step of the way. We talked about our linear story versus, the actual winding road of reality. It's just been a great life, and the way I've handled the ambiguity as just being open and curious.
Awesome. We have our very first comment from one of our viewers. Charlene Reed Evans says, "Hi, Michelle and War Eagle."
Yay, hi.
So to our audience, keep interacting with us, and we'll make sure Michelle hears your comments and questions. So let's talk through, what were some of those specific turns and detours of that winding road that played a role in who you are today?
There are so many that I could talk about, but I thought I would hit on one particular, which is Disney. I mean, Disney had a way of really working you through roles. It was very important to them that you actually did many roles that you might not have had a background in. And I started out as a financial analyst at Disney. But they used a process to find what they thought were the brightest and best leaders through something that many of you may have heard of and read about, but there's a book, Strength Finders, and it's Gallup's program for sort of finding your strengths. And they knew a certain profile of who leaders were. And so you might not have been trained in an area, but they made sure they moved you away. And one of the moments or pivotal moments where I was really trying to decide what to do is I wanted to go back for my MBA. I had applied to Harvard and was accepted, and I was so excited about doing that. That would have meant leaving the workforce at that time and going away and getting my degree. But I ended up staying with Disney. Disney agreed to pay for my MBA there in Florida at Rollins College at the Kremer Graduate School of Business. And then they rotated me every, year to a different department. So I started out in finance and planning. That was because finance and accounting was my background, but I ended up doing marketing, sales, operations, and even briefly I managed some housekeepers at one of the hotels, which in the end you learn so much of the business, and I have Disney to thank for that. And that helped me be able to adjust and frankly empathize with all areas of the business. I mean, I was in finance trying to give housekeepers an extra section on their room because it made sense financially. And my boss said, "That's fine. You go manage housekeepers and clean rooms for a few weeks and then come back and see if you want to add another room to their section." And what I learned on that little tour is no, we didn't and couldn't possibly add a room. But what we could do is buy motorized carts to help them be more efficient. And so I turned my recommendation from a financial one to more of an innovation one. And that began my sort of tour of duty through a bunch of different departments, ultimately ending up in technology, where I've been for the rest of my career.
That's wonderful. We have a few more comments from our audience. Tim Ellen says, "Hi, Michelle. I had the pleasure of meeting and talking with you when you were a guest on the Coach Pat Dye radio show a few years ago. Can you talk about your relationship with Coach Dye and his influence on you? Thanks, and War Eagle.
Oh, good to hear from you. I remember that. I remember where I was. I was in a hotel room on the road during the season. Coach Dye is one of the most foundational people in my life. I came to Auburn with a lot of dreams. I had big goals for myself, and I loved sports and football. And I had actually spent my high school years working at the Enterprise Rec Center and doing a lot of sports. So I did want to do and work in the athletic department. And because my brother was a blue chip recruit, football recruit, I was able to network a bit and had met Coach Dye during at some point a recruiting interaction with my brother. And so he just took me under his wing. I worked in the athletic department. I was an Auburn Tigerette, and I also had a work study job that helped me pay for college working in the athletic department, which meant stuffing envelopes of pictures of Bo Jackson with his Heisman and things like that and addressing them. But I got to spend a lot of time with Coach Dye, and he gave all of the Tigerettes back then a football IQ test. And it was to just understand, not to call us out, but to realize where we might need help understanding the game. And I thought, how forward thinking that was back then, to realize that there might be, well, unlikely in Alabama, but there might be a few girls that didn't understand football. And so when I scored the only perfect score, he told me, wow, you've got a really high football IQ. You ought to really do this for a living. And we stayed in touch over the years, and he encouraged me a lot when I was applying for the NFL job. And he was very supportive as well when I was briefly considered for the athletic director role at Auburn. And the last game the last Iron Bowl that he was able to attend, I sat with him in a box, and we reminisced, and he's greatly missed, but the lessons he left on me, I try to pay it forward all the time.
That's wonderful. And it sounds like he did some foreshadowing to your future when he suggested that you really should start a profession in this. So that's pretty incredible and great to hear more about your relationship with Coach Dye. Let's keep on that topic and share a little bit about what it's been like to be reconnected with Auburn, and what has that practically looked like, and the importance it's had in your story.
Yeah, look, Auburn, as I said, is where I really felt like I launched my life. Given where I grew up, my horizons were pretty limited, and I launched out of Auburn, and I literally launched out of Auburn, and I didn't look back. I didn't do a lot of rear view mirror looking. And then I got busy like every other young person is, starting their career, got married, had 2 kids, and you get really wrapped up in your life. And except for, the occasional visit to see a game and being a fan at home, I really wasn't engaged in the School of Business or in the athletic department in the way, I was a donor, but there's a difference between being a donor and really giving of your time and helping other students know how important it is and special it is to have gone to Auburn. And I can tell you this because, at the NFL, I sit among many Ivy League people. And I think I was the first SEC person to work in the league office. There is a girl there that worked at Kentucky, but I was like, okay, well, yes, you are in the SEC. But I was able to, really, I think, evangelize Auburn a bit into an area that people hadn't really thought about. And so it really helped me reconnect. And a person who is now a wonderful friend, Kay Hargrave is her name, and she used to work at Auburn and was at Tigers Unlimited. And she looked me up one weekend in New York, and we went to the Hamptons, and the rest is history. I come back now to Auburn a lot and stay with them. And also, it's just filled an important part in my life through some tough challenges I had over the last 10 years personally, with my health and family issues. I have to say my Auburn family, and I know we use that word a lot, but it's real and they're always there. So I encourage any young alum that are watching or listening, don't wait until the right time is there. Just stay engaged, and Auburn's always happy to have you back.
Beautifully said. And I love that you shared a very real truth that sometimes it's hard to stay connected when you spring forward and you have all of these new and exciting changes in your life. But how important Auburn's been to your story is really encouraging to our graduates and our viewers today. So thank you for sharing that. Before I move on to our next question, Sherith Fluker jumped in and said, War Eagle, glad to hear from you again, Michelle. And I'm going to assume she was one of our Women's Summit attendee. So she's excited to be on today with us.
Great.
So one of your accomplishments with the NFL and during the pandemic was leading the charge on the first virtual draft. So what did this experience look like and how did you learn from it?
Well, this was the ultimate who moved my cheese moment. And maybe some of our younger people watching this might not even know that, but that was a big book about change, organizational change many years ago. But we were, as you know, planning for our big events that we always have. And it was going to be a live in-person event. And within a matter of weeks, we went from a live event in Las Vegas to a distributed event where some players would be able to gather and coaches and staff would be able to gather at their facilities, to realizing it was completely remote. And so we were the first really broadcast television event that was coming up in the pandemic. And so there was not a playbook. There wasn't really a way to do this. So that was the biggest thing I thought through was how in the world were we going to pull it off? And one thing I can say about the NFL is when we all pull together, it is an amazing place and we can do amazing things. And that's what happened. To think it through, we had, I'd say leading up about 2 weeks out from the draft, we had about 100 people on a giant Zoom call. And everyone was ideating around how it might work. And we'd been advised by many that it couldn't and that we should just scrap it. But our commissioner was really intent on not only getting the draft off, but giving America a bit of hope during a bleak time. And he really shared with us that was our responsibility to find a way to make this happen. And so we scrambled very quickly. It became my project because it was very tech-based. And I had the pleasure of speaking to every head coach and telling them that they had to do it this way and they had to put a camera on. So many funny stories during that time. And Coach Belichick's question to me was, do I have to sit in my chair the whole time? And I said to him, of course not. You can get up and go to the bathroom. I mean, you don't have to sit there the whole time. Little did I know he had this whole plan to train his dog to sit in the chair. And what you couldn't see on the screen, but I could see, was Coach Belichick standing off camera holding a treat in the air so that his dog would sit there, looking like he was doing the draft. Just hilarious moments like that we could have never scripted. But the real, I'd say, thing that I got out of the draft the most, and the draft is always my favorite event of the NFL. People always say, do you love the Super Bowl? Of course, but the draft is my favorite because that's where people's lives are changed. There were people that were about to become multimillionaires who didn't have internet in their homes. There were people who, had that hard discussion with me around, I really don't feel comfortable having a camera in my home. And how are we going to solve this issue? And it really did bring up not just what we were going through as a country with a pandemic, but the differences between those with privilege and those who don't. And just because you're a star athlete and you're ready to be an NFL superstar doesn't mean, you have, and most of the time it means the NFL is your ticket out of what could be a tough home life. And so getting to know those young men and walking through them in a personal way, and now to see them doing so well, It's been so fun. We packed these draft kits that we mailed out to everyone that had light rings and microphones, and my son and I packed 10 kits, and so we still follow those 10 players. And anytime one of them do well, my son will text me, oh, he was one of our kits. And being the Auburn fan that I am, I made sure that Gus got a camera kit, even though we weren't really ranked high enough then to get one. But I was like, no, Auburn needs to be on this broadcast. And then I was responsible sending one to Nick Saban as well. And I just found, like, I don't know, the worst camera that I had and threw that in the box just to have a little fun. But yeah, it was an amazing feat and time, and certainly a highlight of my career and something I'm very proud of.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing about that experience. This next question and comment comes from Susan Story, and it is so good. I know today is your last day after an inspiring and innovative career at the NFL. Congratulations on a job well done. Your fellow Tigers are so proud of you. What's next?
Wow, thank you for that question. And I told Maura when I agreed to do this on today, it is my last day at the NFL. The reason I wanted to do it is it just feels a little bit like divine intervention, that today is a day I get a chance to connect with people who have been so supportive in my life and have cheered me on the entire time I've been at the NFL. It was a very hard decision to leave the league. I love it. It was a long road to get there, and I'm so glad I accomplished it. But after 10 seasons, I really am ready for what's next. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it over the years. And so I'm launching something called the Michelle McKenna Collaborative, because what I really love doing most is collaborating. And that's what I was really good at the NFL. And before me at the NFL, one of the main reasons there wasn't a large technological advancement was that we operated fairly in silos. And so I, as a collaborator, really connect dots, make sure I maximize talent. There are always so many talented people. They're just underutilized, or, in the using Disney terms, maybe miscast. And usually a new person can come in and just do a wrecking ball and change everyone out. And what I was able to do at the NFL was find these amazing, passionate, talented people and get them in the right jobs. And so very proud of that. And I hope in my new venture that I'll be advising CEOs, individuals, and, speaking and writing on these topics at the intersection of media, sports, entertainment, and an inclusive culture. Because I learned a lot about how to get included when you're, the only girl involved, how to make sure you're included, and to how to set up an inclusive environment where you get the best out of everyone. So that's what I'm doing. Wish me luck. I am talking about embracing ambiguity. I'm embracing it. I'm scared, just like everyone is, when you try to do something new, and certainly stepping away from a brand like the NFL, who has been so incredibly good to me. But it's the right thing. And I'm very excited that I got to announce it today with you guys.
That's wonderful. Well, we know that your future is very bright, and we're so excited to support you on your journey. And I know our team has actually put together a little QR code with your Twitter handle, and that is a great way for our audience to stay connected to you. So Colin, I don't know if he's able to put it up for the audience, but if you take out your phone and scan the QR code, or you can see Michelle's Twitter handle there on the screen, make sure you give her a follow and stay connected with her channels as she continues out this journey. There is another comment that came through from Al McBride. It says, congratulations, Michelle. Looking forward to following you on your new endeavors, War Eagle. Lots of congratulations coming through, Michelle. So wanted to share those with you. Thank you so much all for your time today. Michelle, you truly are incredible. Such a great conversationalist, and Auburn is so blessed to have you. And it was wonderful learning more about you and the impact that you're making. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, War Eagle, and I'll see you all on the plains next fall.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Michelle.
Bye.
To wrap up today's show, we would like to preview a few upcoming events hosted by the Auburn Alumni Association. On Thursday, April 21st, we will be featuring the Alabama Cooperative Extension System, often known as ACES, on 1856. Ambush, the annual coaches tour with Coach Brian Harson and Bruce Pearl, will be traveling to 4 cities this spring. Check out the dates and the locations on the screen, and to register, you may visit our website. Lastly, nominations are open for 20 Under 40, a Young Alumni Award Recognition Program. If you know an outstanding young alumnus, visit our website for more information on how you can nominate them. Thank you all for tuning in, and War Eagle.